if you're anything like me, you woke up this morning not knowing that there were as many as 100,000 or even a million missing and kidnapped children in tunnels underground in the United States. That's what I learned this morning on Twitter when I found the hashtag tunnels children. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about what I found, and it is a doozy. Now, if you haven't heard anything, this is going to come to a shock, and if you have, then you probably have seen some of this. This is a Spanish report saying that there were Marines, North American Marines, liberating 100,000 at least children from tunnels. And so they translated it here on Twitter. I found this. I thought it was interesting. I was like, I got to learn more. I haven't seen this on CNN. So here's this video, and I'll pause this to just say, watch this with open eyes. It's graphic, and this is just the first little piece. So just be aware.
Say that although pedophilia, which says child love, has nothing to do with the abuse of children, these children are not just kidnapped and in some cases bred by families as a cash crop. We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation.
Okay, so we know that that's true. We know that all of what he just said is verifiable. What does all that mean as far as the hashtag, though? What does that have to do with news now?
It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse. It's also child torture, because you have adrenalized blood. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of the satanic world. It's also the use of children for harvesting body organs. We'll have the Falun Gong testimony tomorrow. One of the reasons that the Falun Gong are so popular is because they're so healthy, so that you can harvest their body organs and get the very best. And then you have ritual ceremonies and ritual murder, as well as incidental murder.
And, in the meantime, we have a lot of fun around Passover where we steal the children. And, I know you know because I've heard it on your show before. I mean, we steal 100 to 300,000 children a year just here in this country. And we drain the blood and we mix it with the Passover bread. And then we throw the bodies into the slaughterhouses that we own. And we grind up all the bodies in the sausage and the hamburger. McDonald's is one of our favorite outlets. And the people, they eat it for breakfast. They eat their children for lunch. And,
Okay, so for starters, I know you're hearing that. You're like me. You're going, that has one. If you're going to say something like that on recording, is that a joke? Is that a prank? Who is that? All that is a screenshot of a guy and then a recording. I know this is all just stuff that I'd found on Twitter as well, and I can't find anything more. So that's why I'm making this to hopefully draw some attention to it. The other thing we're seeing is that, and by we, I mean I just had found this hashtag this morning and decided to do a deep dive. The other thing I'm noticing is the earthquakes. I'll just kind of play this. All of these earthquakes in Utah, these 6 over the last 30 days, are 93% of all earthquakes in the state that the state's ever recorded. And we know that in order to blast open some of these tunnels that we know the government has, you would expect an earthquake-sized shake, move, quake, whatever you want to call it, tremor. This is what I'm looking for. And Susie Q, obviously someone who follows Q on Twitter, is posting out that since 2018, we've been training troops on how to storm and battle out and infiltrate and clear underground tunnels and bunkers, not just for the southern border for drug trafficking, but for human trafficking within our own country. And gosh, this just gets deeper. Now, I know it sounds like I already know what I'm talking about because I looked at all this stuff before, but this just gets really dark. This is really interesting, and I'm only going to highlight this for a second because we'll come back to it. This is pointing out some of the hospital patients in New York who are not seen with any any of the COVID-related responses that you normally see. Ventilator, you would normally expect. You would see a bunch of masks with people wearing the full body hair net. This isn't COVID. You're looking at this picture. I don't have to explain it in an incoherent way. This isn't COVID. You can see that. And they have this circle. There's no vent. Obviously, there's no antibiotic. There's no cardiac. This is a nutrition bag. So we'll come back to this. Who is laying in a bag? Why do they need that? Just keep watching. You're seeing that, and you're wondering, okay. So the video that I had found had that other part of the clip at the beginning, and then it had this part just to follow shortly thereafter. These are all comments on the post that includes an audio clip that you're going to hear in a second. The audio is of a woman and then of a man who each claim to know someone.
Yeah, so it's a friend of my mom's. She's a nurse. She's 69 years old. She volunteered through Good Samaritan, and they sent her from North Carolina up to New York City. So apparently, she is working in a MASH type unit in Central Park. And I don't know what all the details of what she told my mom. I don't know if it's more than what I've already told you, but she just said the thing with the kids, it's real. And I have to tell you, it's horrible. So horrible. And she said, please, everybody be praying for those children and for the medical people that are taking care of all this. So, but it's in Central Park as far as I know, and these tunnels from the maps.
Dude, I know somebody personally whose girlfriend is a nurse and knows other nurses, and she's in contact with one of the nurses at Central Park, and they say they're just rescuing kids that are severely screwed up, like they were sex slaves from birth kind of situation. Some of them are deformed. But she's 100% sure that she trusts her friend, and I know her personally. So it's not like fourth-hand information. It is second-hand. But she says the rescue operation has begun, and that's maybe probably what the ships are for.
Okay. From there, I'm not going to take you on a sappy tour of, this is clearly showing the Mercy and the Comfort both on the move. There's nice piano music playing. It's saying, we won't leave you, we will find you. And it's really, if you know that there are a million kids in tunnels underground being abused and being milked for adrenochrome and being used in the mass production of elitist drugs by torturing and scaring the fear into kids so bad that the adrenaline soaks into their blood, and then you kill them, take the blood, and then... Anyways, if you believe that all that's happening, then this would be a huge, huge positive win for you. Anyways, more of this video, just to show you what I found today on Twitter, because it blew my mind. And if this is real, if this is authentic and it's genuine, this will be the biggest story of the century. The fact that there were thousands, hundreds of thousands of people exploiting a tunnel system in the United States for human trafficking, doping, and other nefarious sex ring type things. I mean, Jesus Christ. Anyways, again, I'm not going to show you all the video, but I wanted to show you that. Now, there's a lot of moving pieces to this. There's no evidence of this. No news is in there, no mainstream news. But I want to show you David Rodriguez's video. If you know who David Rodriguez is, then I won't tell you anything more. Read the bottom. He's a famous heavyweight boxer. He's a heavyweight champion. And you can listen to him explain a little bit more as to what I'm trying to tell you.
Been involved in boxing, being a pro athlete for a long time, and I've made some connections. I've made some powerful connections, with fighters, UFC fighters, professional boxers. I've been in that arena where I rub shoulders with some big names. I've been around Tony Robbins. I've been around, I've gone out with like Oprah. I've gone out with a lot of big people and had, been able to meet a lot of big people and talk to them like I'm talking to you all. And I just want to say one thing, and I know a lot of you are doubting this, But this is the truth, man. There is a big sting operation going down. It's happening, and I'm telling you, man, these pedophile rings are getting taken down. It's Hollywood ain't cool anymore. Hollywood's going down, and I still talk to my sources, and I still talk to people that are involved. And listen, there is a big operation going down, and they're getting taken out. And every day is confirmation to me when it's a secretive thing, but I think it's going to come out. They say it's going to come out on the media when it's all said and done. And I think what's going to happen is going to really shock a lot of you. I mean, a lot of you are going to kind of brush it off and be like, well, I always knew it was there, but I don't think you understand how prevalent these pedophile rings really are in Hollywood and in the sports arenas, in Hollywood, in the political arena. I mean, everywhere, man. It's bad. And it's human trafficking, and sex trafficking is the hottest thing, that biggest commodity right now. And I think once this all comes out to the surface, a lot of you are going to be disgusted and feel very dirty for even knowing the information. I got to tell you, a lot of you don't like Trump, but he's doing the right thing right now. This guy is spearheading this whole thing, and it's an amazing thing to watch. They're going after the cartels for the human trafficking. They're going after the child pedophilia rings. Look, all these roads lead to Clinton Foundation in Haiti. They lead to...
So there you have it. There's David Rodriguez. He's explaining it to you as clearly as he can, that he has talked to the people who know these folks, and they are alerted to the fact that this is happening. They're under attack. They know it. He hears it. He feels the reverberation of it. And most of you don't know who he is. So imagine what Tom Hanks is feeling. Imagine what Hillary Clinton is feeling. Imagine what all these folks are feeling right now. And then imagine as to why the media is projecting how poorly Donald Trump is treating this entire fiasco right now. They're trying to crucify him again and impeach him for his handling of the coronavirus. Why do you think that is? Anyways, moving on. On the screen now, Lucy Fox has found an old Q post that talks about children being kidnapped, tortured, raped, sacrificed in the name of pure evil, and that they're fighting a deeply entrenched enemy. Now, if that's not cryptic and coded for tunnels and caves, I don't know what is. And there's more. I mean, Twitter, you can look, it's fascinating. You can type in any of these hashtags that you see on the screen, and you can see exactly how deeply people are diving into this. The Comfort doesn't have babies being delivered, but it's got incubators. You see this again, as we were looking before. This is not a bag that is doing anything but treating kids that are being pulled out of tunnels across the country. This bag is a nutrition bag, and what it does is when you're completely malnourished, it is feeding you meals on meals on meals through that intravenous plug there. They don't have an antibiotic drip on the kid. They don't have a cardiac. They don't have a ventilator. They don't have any of that stuff going on. This guy's not covering his head again. So what I'm trying to explain to you is this may be authentic. This may be legit. Here's the second part of the video anyways. The second video, I should say. Uploaded a week and a half or so after the first one. Says, ICU nurse friend says nurses are now being called off. Well, that's happening nationally. Hospitals are laying people off because they're not doing regular procedures. They're shut down. They're only looking for this COVID. We, the armed forces, are removing children from tunnels in LA and New York. Human and child trafficking is going to be stopped today. It starts today. Hospitals are empty to house children. Same with the ships on both coasts. Very tough 2 weeks. Very, very tough 2 weeks. Pray. 800,000 children go missing a year. You don't think there's a million kids under there? You don't think that has something to do with why we initially predicted 1 to 2 million people might die in the coronavirus? Because we were expecting about 2 million bodies coming out of those tunnels. Maybe. Again, all of this is just stuff I found this morning on Twitter. I don't know if it's even real. But a lot of people have done a lot of work to put, time into these videos and the recordings. It'd be hard for me to just imagine that it's for nothing, that no one's, actually been saved, this isn't real. All these people are posting this independently and on their own public personal social media accounts. So that's what I know. That's what I found. And just to kind of skim a little bit further forward, they have the same audio clips again. The same two folks that are saying, we have kids being pulled out of here. We have kids being pulled out. And they again have, because I told you this was the second of the two videos that they had. They have, it's not propaganda necessarily, but it's motivating emotional footage of the Mercy and of the Comfort moving in. These ships are there, these folks think, with the hashtag Tunnels Children. They believe these ships are there to save kids. And I'm going to show you a clip from a guy's show who essentially believes that underneath the Getty Museum in LA, there are 100,000 sex slaves, child slaves. They live in an underground bunker. Stephen Kelly is a guy who will again and again tell you, we'll get past his introduction. Really well-known person, apparently. You can look him up. He has a lot of credentials. I'm going to skip past them all so that we can hear him say,
in spreading truth. We're going to be taking the lid off of one of the crown jewels of the entire underground bunker system, and it's also the weakest link in the entire house of cards. So they know this day was coming, and they've been waiting for it, and they've been scared of it because they knew what would happen when everybody finds out about it.
Have you heard about the earthquakes in LA?
On the back
Have you heard about
elephant.
all of the earthquakes in the West
There's
Coast,
a
but specifically in
below
LA?
there that is just huge.
They're
Now,
blowing it up.
there's a lot of bunkers in the United States, okay? There's at least 250 in the United States, and they're all linked up. Now, the thing about this is that they go over state lines, okay? They'll go over international lines. So in other words, there is no sovereign government involved with these people. This is an underground government, truly an underground government. Back in, I think it was...
That is why the United States media is not covering this. This is why this is a military operation. This is why the National Guard is covering the top side and is not going under, because we have our special ops going under. They've been training since 2018 to do this. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. You should go and watch this entire video because it is eye-opening. I don't want to include all of it because I don't want to have everybody think this is an hour-long video and I'm wasting your time. But go back, watch this video. It's really, really interesting. And I'll find links and put all this in the description. They're talking about how Pizzagate, obviously a psyop to discredit Pedogate, which is authentic. This is their headquarters, and we're going after them. And so we're busting through these bunkers. And we're going to see here in a second how we've been planning for a detailed underground war for a long time. And this is the result. We are now pulling people out of these tunnels, and we've gone underground. So I want to show you this.
Heads up, they can in dark. They can put them in a tent where it's dark, because they can't stand the light of day. Because a lot of them have never been in the light of day.
These are child sex slaves
And
being
some are
kept in these
genetically
tunnels.
engineered, and most of those when
Underground
they brought them
cities.
up died, and that's
Underground
that big, huge mass
cities.
grave that's being seen on a lot of Twitter posts now today, showing them digging those mass graves.
If you had a family member who was in a hospital who had coronavirus and they died, they would not end up in a mass grave. You would have a normal grave for them. You would have a ceremony. You'd have a funeral. You'd have them sterilized, of course, and then you'd have a normal funeral. You'd have a normal plot. This is not for a person who has family members. These are not for people that have friends who have... I mean, those are boxes with people in them. With remains in them. Anyways, so these are supposedly the 50-something thousand people that have been pulled out of these tunnels who didn't make it. Because they didn't survive. And if you're wondering why they didn't, take a look. See the earlobe that's circled there? It's deformed. You see the hand there that looks more like a claw or a fin than anything. These are the supposed screenshots of the kids that are coming out of the tunnels. Some of them that have been in there their entire lives. I don't know what to make of this. And again, this is stuff I found this morning. I don't know that any of it is genuine or authentic, other than to know that it's been pulled down a couple different times and people are trying to upload and re-upload. You see another hand here that doesn't quite look right, and maybe in this video doesn't look great, but check the description again, because I'll link all of these different sources so long as they're up and active. I want you to get to one. We've seen that shows, here we go. This is a child who, if you can tell, it's not that their legs are covered, and it's not that their arms are covered, it's that they're not there. That is a head on an abdomen only, and those people are focused only on the head and abdomen. There's no body in that gurney. It's a head and abdomen. And it's of a child that's been pulled out. Notice the headgear and stuff. They don't have masks. They don't have shields. They don't have the big head dresses and stuff that you see when they're dealing with corona. And they're not in a sterile environment. So they're not dealing with corona. They're dealing with a kid who's malnourished, and they're feeding him. They're feeding a kid who got pulled out of something. Look, they're telling us it's a tunnel. The lady's call that says, my mom volunteers for the Samaritan's Purse and her friend is a nurse and all that. Here's the Samaritan's Purse now with Psalm 91 taped on their back, because they know what they're doing right now. They're saving kids. So Donald Trump says there should be a public execution for all the perverts, for all to see. You'll end this bullshit fast, right? That's what he said in, I believe it's 2013. Well, he's now the president. This is a person saying, hey, that thing you saw earlier, that's a shin bone IV kit. It's used to start an IV on patients who are severely dehydrated. So if you find a kid in the rubble, or you find someone under an earthquake disaster zone, if you find someone who's terribly suffered some trauma and terribly dehydrated and malnourished, and you can't get an IV going in a normal vein, you use this. This is a shin bone IV. And geez, I mean, if they're using those on the kids coming out of these tunnels, then you'd have to imagine they're taking a serious hit. I mean, this is really traumatic. Notice all of the different press briefings that we've seen when they ask what kind of patients are being put on these ships. We're just told they're trauma patients. They're the typical trauma patients, everything from a broken leg to cardiac arrest to everything in between. Here is a person carrying a box of Pampers, and again, it's in this video, it's really kind of difficult to see, but in the original, you can see that it's a box of Pampers, and these are being brought in by the pallet because, of course, when you have tens of thousands of children and infants being brought out, and in many cases, these kids could be 10 years old and still be in a diaper because they've only ever lived in a cage since birth. And think about that for a second. Think about the humanitarian crisis that this really is. See that bone there? You see that guy's leg? You see his foot? That's a child. And this was sneaked out of one of the tents at the Javits Center. Here's the other thing the Javits Center has going for it. Humidifiers in the shape of penguins and backpacks that they give to foster kids. Now, you wouldn't have the entire Javits Center outfitted like this unless this was made for kids. But you see each of these rooms is made for a kid. Not an adult with COVID, but a trauma patient underage. A minor trauma victim. That's what these are for. So what is the Javits Center doing? What is the big ship for? I am a trauma counselor. And when you see right there is what I know is a victim room. Tranquil for some sense of normality. No medical equipment. It's soft lighting. Some pamper goodies and such. That's what this person's saying. What does she finish that up with? And a backpack as a trauma pack with some personal hygiene items. So they feel like they have personal items. Makeshift hospitals for corona victims, for comfort center for those in shock when real news is released, for reestablishment center for children and adults, for B and C. So, geez, I mean, this is a crisis center set up for a lot more than just these kids. And you can see they're circling a lot more. This is all pediatric stuff. They're treating children who have suffered severe trauma. Now here is another tweet from Bards of War. USNS Comfort, the hospital ships are not allowed to deliver babies, but they have incubators on board. There's just more of the information that you're not seeing on the media, on the mainstream, but you are going to see on Twitter if you go to the hashtag Tunnels Children or hashtag For the Children, hashtag Save the Children, hashtag any of those other things. Now they have crushed soda, Twix, M&M's, Starbursts, all of those things being loaded onto the hospital ship. Those are things you'd give to a kid. And I agree. I mean, I understand that the hospital administrators would also want that. Nurses and doctors would also want a snack in between surgery, but they're not doing surgery. They're treating COVID patients, except for they're not. Remember, they're not doing that on the ship either. So they're not doing surgery and they're not doing COVID patients. What are they doing? They're treating trauma victims. That's what this says. With children's toys and children's outfits and all the above. Pentagon says people are pissed off. These children are all coming from south of the border. That's why Trump has the wall going up. This is not surprising. This is not news. But it is news in the fact that we're opening tunnels and pulling people out. So you're wondering, okay, where the hell do you get all this? I'll show you. This is a guy who says he's a reporter with the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, and he has some pretty interesting things to update you on.
Hello, everybody. This is Timothy Charles Homseth on the road with the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, and I'm just stopping here to give you a quick update on the situation with the children underground under Central Park in New York. First thing I'm going to tell you is if you come across anybody out there who's trying to tell you that that's not what's happening in Central Park under those tents, they're lying to you, and they are probably with the traffickers themselves. They're probably involved in it. If they're overtly telling you that I'm lying, I don't do this for my health. This is bad for my health, if anything. All right. I'm just going to give you a few updates. I've got more information coming, but I'm going to give you what I know so far. Up until now, I reported that it was like 35,000 children across the United States that have been saved from these underground bunkers and bases. The number now, from my sources, is around 50,000, is what I'm being told. And here's the deal with the little kids and what's coming up out of underneath those tents in Central Park is they're bringing children up, but the problem is the babies and the children are dying when they get to the top. It has something to do with oxygen, and they're not all dying, but a lot of them are dying, and so it's really hard. They got the tent set up in a certain way, and another thing is that these kids and these babies cannot even be exposed to the sun for a second. They're just dying. It's killing them because they've lived underground in this thing, in the pitch dark down there. And so what I'm told is they're trying to actually get the ventilators down to the children down there, but then there's a problem with electricity because I guess electricity that's a problem. Trying to hook all these ventilators, because they have to almost like start working on the children before they even bring them up because they're dying.
I'm breaking in for a second to skip through some minutia here.
They're blowing those D.U.M.s up.
Well, I just missed a little piece here.
Quakes. Where you see there's earthquakes, those aren't really earthquakes. They're blowing those D.U.M.s up.
And so you're like, wait, what are the D.U.M.s? I don't understand what D.U.M.s are. What do you mean by D.U.M.s? Doesn't make a lot of sense. And he's going to continue to tell you about all these underground tunnels. Go check his video out. I'll link it in the description. Let's move on. But I want to get you to this part where he says that CPS is involved.
Well, you can have more than hope. You watch your president. He knows exactly what he's doing for a while. But God bless our military.
Well, overshot it. He says people are going to riot when they hear why this happened and how this happened. And here, I think we figured it out. Hillary Clinton created the 1997 Adoptions and Safe Families Act. And that gave every caseworker $8,000 for every child that was removed from a home that they oversaw. That meant an $8,000 bonus every time you got a kid removed from their house and put into the foster pipeline, which ended up being what they own, the kids. So again, I'm going to link all of these things in the description so that you can check these out for yourself, because I never like just hearing one person's opinion and taking it as a fact. And I listened to a lot of people's opinions this morning, and I don't know that any of them are a fact. But I think it's all interesting. Now you have Jenna Jameson. I don't follow her on Twitter necessarily, but you can see I don't. But I did see this because people are saying if you want to see actual, real-life, living proof that this exists, here's a survivor story. And there's Jenna Jameson posting on behalf of Coco Berthman, who, if you go to her Instagram, you can watch her story. She describes how from birth through the age of 15, she was sold into this lifestyle, into this world by her mom. And she would be put into these underground camps in Las Vegas. So she escaped at 15. And she's now telling the story. You've got earthquakes. You've got 6 in the last 30 days. 93% of all of Salt Lake's earthquakes ever. And people think, oh, is there an underground war going on? What's happening? Now, obviously, Crooked Flags knows exactly what's happening. But these earthquakes going on underground, they're not really underground. They're like 8 meters underground, or in some cases, 5 meters above ground was reported. It's because they're blowing these D.U.M.s open. These deep underground military bases, they're being blown open so we can rescue the kids. We're swarming them. You've got the vice president, the president, and everyone else in the administration at some point or another quoting, dark to light. And in the past week and a half, they've all been talking about the coronavirus, saying there's light at the end of the tunnel. But a lot of us are not believing that there's the coronavirus, that's what they're talking about. People believe that they're talking about literal tunnels. They're saying that there's an actual light at the end of the tunnel, that they are talking to the families and the children themselves that, hope is on the way, that they are coming. You can see actual clusters of earthquakes reported around Salt Lake and the tremors affected and eyewitness reports. And that would show you it doesn't feel like an actual earthquake moving outwards as much as it would be a blast zone. I don't know. You tell me. I don't think that these things are genetically engineered. I don't think that's true. I think that these are unfortunate cases of incest, of inbreeding, of abuse, of neglect, of prenatal care that's gone missing, fetal issues, malformities. But you saw the picture earlier where people were saying, what is that bag that's hanging there? When you have a kid who's dehydrated, a trauma victim, like I said earlier, they don't have an easy way of finding an IV. You create one by using this pediatric bone IV. It jams an IV into their bone. Here's a transcript from Donald Trump. This is the last thing I'll show you. This is a transcript from Donald Trump talking about how they're dealing with the problem that we know so well, right? He says thousands of hospital beds at the USNS Comfort was sent, as you know, to New York, and it was originally for more of a normal medical purpose. And we changed it so that it could take care of people that had the unfortunate circumstance of going through the problem that we know so well. Unfortunately, that we know so well. I said from the beginning that no American who needs a ventilator would be denied a ventilator, and we have kept that promise all over the United States. Think of that. Other countries are desperate for ventilators. They have many deaths because they don't have a ventilator. It goes on from there. A lot of people thought he's talking about the coronavirus, clearly. Is it possible, though, that he's talking about the people that are dealing with the significant problem and the unfortunate circumstance that we know so well? Is that him referring to these kids under the bunker? I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I found the hashtag #TunnelsChildren on YouTube this morning, or on Twitter. There's the deep dive. YouTube has the description with the links in it. Check it out yourself. Tell me what you think.